What, you ask? When Katie Holmes announced she was divorcing Tom Cruise, it was the idiotical and only idiotical, which provided the public with the true reason behind the split. Tom got this in the movie ever since. We also asked the question, who wore it better, Katy Perry or Betty White? Sophia Vergara or The Rock? Finally, Pope Benedict XVI or Ryan Gosling? When the Call of Duty video came out, the Mad Mark presented its own exciting version, Call of Jury Duty. When Snooki tweeted this real photo of herself without makeup, this got us to thinking, what would other celebrities look like without makeup? Leah Michelle with makeup and without. Paula Dean with makeup and without. And lastly, David Hyde Pierce with makeup and without. When George Bush recently visited the White House to unveil the official portrait of the 43rd President of the United States, the idiotical was there. And when Penn State coach Terry Sandusky was recently convicted, we had something to say about that as well. In addition to the blog, we also do something every other month called Mad Magazine. When it was announced there would be an on-demand channel for dogs, and I'm not making this up, we wondered what the shows might be like on that channel. This old dog house. The Golden And how about Don't Trust Religion? This being election year, I'm going to have some politicians, including Michelle Bachmann, Herman Cain, and not to mention President Obama and the Congress. One more subliminal plug, sir. We have a special issue that goes on sale Tuesday, and I will give a copy away to someone who asks an intelligent question at the end of this. It's filled with all our classic Batman material, including some artwork by Mr. Richmond again. Mr. Viviano. Plus some other things, including a mad look at The Dark Knight Rises by Mr. Aragones. One more thing, if you stop by the Mad booth, or the DC booth I should say, you can get your photo on the cover of Mad for free. That's true. If you go to the booth, they have it set up. You can get that done. It's terrific. Also, on a table here, you see we have some terrific new spy toys that Sean Knapp was kind enough to bring up. They're really terrific. You must take a close look at them. In closing, if you take away one thing from this panel, one thing only, I hope it is this. Mad Magazine, its books and its blog, is your go-to source for humor that is smart, funny, and classy. Yes, that's right, I said classy. coming. Be sure to subscribe to them. Any questions from anybody? I'll start things off perhaps asking some members of the panel. Tom, you are currently working on a 7-page scoop of the event, which goes to press on next Saturday, which is why you were drawing it in your book and artist gallery. Can you just walk us through briefly how you go about tackling the 7-page satire with so many characters and so many characters and get the action and story going?
Well, basically it's all things to do with thankfully I have access to, trailers and that type of thing. Go to see the movie a few times. Fortunately, I kind of like this one, so the association, other ones have not been quite that big. But you go to the movie, you get a feel for it, you draw characters, and then you wait for the last possible second to start, and bring it up straight out.
And I mentioned before, you're a guest of the con. You're a guest of the con. You have a panel tomorrow. You want to plug it a little bit? When is it? What group? Do you know? So people can just stay here overnight. Perfect. Tell us a little bit about, because you didn't originally start out as a humorous illustrator. You sort of made a transition at some point. Tell us about how that happened.
As far as doing that stuff?
Yeah.
Look, this guy just told me he goes to the movies because he's seen the movie 2 or 3 times. I used to see the movie once, but I had a camera with me. Photographed right off the screen. I only got thrown out of one theater. All the years I was in
You think I get started for that?
I used to watch TVs from people like
No, I used to do my own research, find around.
Talk into the mic. Talk into the mic.
Here's the mic. And that's how it is.
Any questions from the audience? Come right up. Oh, yes, you were first. Funny you should ask. There is a movie in development now. It's not Alfred, it's The Spies. It's just starting now in the formation period. I think the script is being written. So hopefully next year when we come back, we'll have a lot more to talk about that. Yes, sir. Sam, you want to tell the story?
Why not? Alfred actually predates Mad, not by a year, not by a couple years, but by practically half a century or more. When Harvey Kurtzman was editing Mad in the early years, he had a face of a boy that he liked to put throughout the magazine. And when Al Feldstein took over the magazine, his first issue featured that boy as the cover boy. And that was Norman Mingo's first job for the magazine. And of course, Mingo went on to be the main cover artist for Mad for the next quarter century. And we never made bones about the fact that the image was original. And there were other
You do that with the jokes, too.
Other versions of the face had been around for a while. And in fact, my understanding is that one of the publishers of postcards actually sued Matt, saying that they owned this face. So Matt's crack research team, was it Jack Albert? Yeah, Jack Albert, the lawyer, did a huge amount of research and found that that face went back as far as the 19th century. A dentist in Topeka, Kansas, named Painless Romaine, and he featured a billboard with a young red-headed boy, and the tooth was missing. And he said, "Mom, it didn't hurt a bit." What? He
editorial staff and sometimes the art staff as well. Just sitting, what are we talking about today in the news? What can we do? Sometimes it's great, the news presents itself with a great, like the Sandusky thing happened very quickly. Other days we're looking at each other for an hour and a half, and there's blood on the wall. The next one question. I'd like to present you with a roll of their toilet paper.
How was it determined to continue 5 versus 5 with another artist after Antonio passed away? I'm just wondering how it came about, how you chose to do that.
Sure. Well, actually, Antonio had been in declining health for a while, and we were having other artists drawing his style. And we realized at some point that we had to make a break. We were looking for someone who could both write and draw it. We put out a call to a lot of different artists who sent in samples, and to be honest, none of them were that good. They were very good, but they weren't elevating it. They weren't taking it, making it their own. I was familiar with Peter's work, and I called Peter and I said, Peter, what do you think? And he kind of did okay with it. Originally, Peter used his airbrush style, and then I guess about 2 years ago, we switched to a slightly different style. Let me ask one question, Mr. Aragones. People notice you're coming up with a cane. You had some health issues with your back this year. Please tell us you are okay and on the mend.
Oh, yeah, I had a problem with my back with the sciatic, and they operated a couple of things, and it was a little nasty early months, but I'm all recuperated, and I'm walking with a cane, and probably in a month I'll be totally all right. And it was a good pretext to not be really mad. But guess what was the next article I presented?
Men about hospitals.
I had also research.
No, what you're right.
We like to think ideas.
He was able to write up all his medical bills.
Matt is so well known for the commercial ad card. What was the response like with the local magazine when you start putting actual ads?
I think I can actually answer that. I'm selling original artwork at my table at, I'll be there after the table with very reasonable prices. II-17, hard to sell. Very reasonable prices.
That's like the 1,000 ads.
It's all the way down to H. I say walk back down there.
You want to put something on the opening, maybe schematic? In answer to your question, for about a week we got a ton of emails and a ton of letters saying that we had sold out. And I really want to talk about this because everybody felt that corporate was making us do it. In fact, the opposite was true. The demand came from the editorial team who wanted to put color in the magazine and put it on better paper. And the only way to do that was to take ads or raise the price to about $11 a copy. We went with the ads.
Curious how much you guys actually interact with each other. Start the story, that somebody's working on this, one fiber, fine, somebody's working on this. How much do you guys actually work together?
Well, in the beginning, everything was in New York. All of the tracking agencies, everything that had to do with any type of business was centered in New York. So as artists, we all go to Mac, and we met there, and we had coffees, and then we again, from the beginning, invited all of us to this magic Mac trip that all of us went, all paid to African safaris, Russia, Tahiti. Every year, 40 years, we went all over. And then we really meet each other. And then we were roommates, and we became more of a family. As communication became better, everybody started moving away. Jack Davis moved to Georgia, Koreans went back to Miami, and everybody started moving away, except the New Yorkers at heart, I thought, and maybe the editorial staff that stay over there. So it's much less communication because when we have a chance like this to see each other and talk, but it was easier and more interchangeable in the earlier times.
Yeah, James was a genius about the trips. In fact, one of the essays Frank writes in the Mad book that's coming out is about the trips and some of the funny things that happened on them.
panelists. We were in Georgia at the University of Savannah, and we had a great time there because they kind of moved math back in that thing. And it was great. Sometimes we don't tell Mr. Cooper about it. Let's just keep with that tradition.
I will tell you though, he's right, there's not too many people come up to the office these days because of the way they presented it, but one person still does it down Jaffe. And when he comes in to deliver a fold-in, and I was down 91, he walks across town, drops off the fold-in, sits in my office, and the entire editorial staff, because they know this city where a living like comes in, and spends the morning just talking to Al. So no work is done when Al is in the office. He's a terrific guy. Peter, tell us just a little bit about your trip to Harvard. What are the students like? What are they asking you? What are they drawing? And do you think one of them could draw the spy better and cheaper than you? Answer the last part first.
I'm glad you asked that. I'm selling original artwork. Well, it was, you know, it was a very strange thing to get called by Harvard to teach their first comics class, and which I made me realize that they're not as smart as hit person. But no, it was a remarkable student, and in fact, one of them was trying to get me mad, but apparently he wasn't dumb enough. You know, anything with that. And I got to get a tour of the Harvard Lampoon and go get some of the back scenes of a lot of people who ended up involved with a lot of the humor that, you know, probably a number of them ended up related to math in some way, or The Simpsons, or a lot of the other, The Onion, and a lot of the other humor publications. But it was a really, it was a remarkable experience to rub shoulders with this strange Ivy League, whatever it was. Maybe it was Poison Ivy League. But, and yes, I would be replaced shortly by one of those students.
You touched on the Med intern program. We do have a terrific intern program. If anybody's interested, you have to be in college. In fact, we have a couple former interns. Jason Katzenstein, who's now gone on to be a Med writer. And also, is Megan Dance here? I ran into her. There she is. Megan was a terrific intern, is now on staff of Community, the television show. So, she's accepting the true rules. You have Med on your resume, you still may find reputable work. Oh, Carl Peterson?
An artist here. Great, no. Besides, we have the publisher of German math.
I did not know that. Things like that.
In Germany, math is more for adults. It's a lot of sexual content.
How can I subscribe?
That's not great to Germany.
Another question?
I want to say, I think that my first copy now when I was 5 years old, and it was one, I mean, he taught me how to think, taught me to be a consumer activist, just loved it. But in the 70s when I went to summer camp, you guys had a EC comic that was in the magazine, and when you pulled it out, it ripped apart from your hand. And I paid $1.75 for that, and I was wondering if I could get a refund. I've
Please have an order exchange back to our office.
And one of the things that we've been doing the last few years is USO tours. So Sam's been on a couple, Jack Davis went on one, some other comic strip people. We go overseas, and I've been to Afghanistan and Iraq and Kuwait, and joined with the troops. One of the greatest things that I've been able to be a part of. It's been so great to go over there and bring some smile to the faces of some of the men that are on the wheel there. In fact, next month, Sam and I will be going to the Persian Gulf to go on the USS Enterprise, which is on its final deployment right now. And we'll be joining the troops over there. It's going to be a lot of fun. But great thing to be able to do, very privileged to be part of that.
Absolutely.
One more military story, and I'll tell you why I love my job. A couple of weeks ago, we got a call. The team said Admiral McRaven is a big fan of Mad and DC Comics and wanted to visit the offices. I don't know how many of you know the names. So Admiral McRaven is a 4-star admiral. He was the guy who planned and then executed Bin Laden raid. He was the guy that they brought the body to, opened up the bag, and he was on the phone to Obama and said, "Yeah, it's him." So the FBI came through, and NCIS came through a few days later, and a few days later, he walked out on the grave to my office. The nicest guy I ever wanted to meet, and a true fan who asked questions that only a fan would ask. Someone who actually grew up, remembered a lot of the things on the walls. I don't know if you remember, we did a thing a couple of years ago, right before the Persian Gulf War, when Bush won, the second Bush won, that we did Home of the Attack. He said, "Oh, I remember this. Bush had this in the Oval Office." He said he loved it, which was upsetting to me. So it's just one of those things you never know who's going to walk into the man's office. Another question.
Did he show you that picture?
No, he did not. I had to give him $1.75 too. Yes.
Monitor other secure violence, like you mentioned the other show, and do you feel like you have to clear them, or do you feel need to send it anyway, or what are your sort of feelings about that?
We were always frustrated until we got the blog by Daily Show, because they were able to react instantaneously to things that they happened there. We'll be working on an issue that will be out in 2 months, so it's very hard to compete with that. Now that we have the blog, we really like our immediacy. The Daily Show is terrific. They have terrific writers. In fact, one of our writers is the headliner on the Daily Show, a guy named Tim Carl. In fact, to ask me that question, I have a copy of Tim's book, Fine Attack. I want to forget it. Yes.
I have every match since 1975, September. I have all the vinyl records. I can't play them on my MP3 player. Is there any chance that I'm ever going to get taken out on my
That's a good question. Sandy, do you know the answer to that question? Sandy Redmond does our licensing.
As a matter of fact, I don't know the answer to that.
Now you know why Sandy does our licensing. We did put out a Rhino CD. I want to say about 10 years ago. You probably find it on eBay. Let me ask Ryan a question, because another question we frequently get asked is, how can we break into Mad? And one of the easier ways is with the Mad Strip Club, which is the back of the book section of comic strips of up-and-coming artists, and artists that sort of expand the world of what Mad is. So Ryan is in charge of that book in terms of taking in the submissions and then bringing in the artists. So why don't you just go through that a little bit?
Art is actually,
Yeah.
so, like John said, the strip club is an excellent opportunity to get new people into the magazine. And we're looking for comics, we love characters, we love just different approaches to everyday circumstances, things you find in popular culture, things like that. And it's just short strips, maybe a quarter of a page, 3/4 of a page. It's been an excellent opportunity for us to bring in new voices that have the same sensibility as us, but needed to have like their own little section in the club is somebody who's seen their work maybe many times before, back in programming new people. And a lot of the guys and girls who are working with us have day jobs. One of them is a mailman. I'm not kidding, that's his day job. And he's plenty the rest of the time. So he's we've got a couple guys in the strip club actually here today. Phil McAndrew, who's sold a couple times. Right there, who's sold some times. And not to diminish your what you come to. Kenny is an excellent example of, he started out, I approached him for a strip club, but he's writing all sorts of stuff in the magazine now. Articles and features on our front news section up front. So it's a really great way to get into mag and just infect the entire magazine.
There is a small hand in the back that I must recognize. Yes, sir. Sadly, yes. Because I think Albany Mills could beat Mitt Romney in the election. It's going to be a very tough election if Albert runs, I'm going to tell you that. The outfit slogan is, "You could do worse than you frequently have." I think you should come up and get something. We do this. What's in the wind and how expansive is it? We watch what's going on in the magazines, on the newspapers, on news shows. Because like I said, sometimes we're working 2 to 3 months ahead. And we do the best we can. We try to pick a broader range of topics as opposed to something very specific. But something like East Side Story, which is just genius, written by Dick Meglin, our former editor. And it's in that book, by the way, it's coming back to the 60th anniversary. Those are terrific pieces, and we like to do them, the higher brow pieces that may not hit everybody.
Yeah, a couple questions. One, that 60th book that's coming out, are you going to put one out that has autographs of all the people on it?
That would be neat, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The logistics of doing something like that is incredibly hard, because I once tried to do that for another book. You just get all the guys to sign it, and you send it to one guy, and they email it to the next guy, and the next guy, and I never got it. You guys still have it, Sergio? Hello, eBay, Sergio?
The other thing is, I know Peter Sergio on the stage is a drummer, but I don't see him book that any of the others do.
Tom Richmond has a table as well.
Yeah, I'm at the National Christian Society booth, occasionally.
When he's not here. Another question?
Also, actually, the two members of the strip club who are out there, too, Douglas Pascavage and Keith Knight. They're clubbing the race right now. They're awesome stuff. That's what I'm asking.
And if you haven't been to the Mad Booth, inside the DC Entertainment area, we have a treat in store for you where we have the Metropolitan Museum of Art containing gloriously framed reproductions of many Mad cover art pieces involving superheroes. Spectacular.
Yes. Sometimes it's very easy, sometimes it's not. When we're doing this issue, we're doing the satire of Spider-Man. It's pretty easy to put Spider-Man on the cover. It's going to be a big movie. Sometimes we will come. I'll tell a classic story. We were trying to come up with a cover. We did 120 different covers. I swear to God, I have every one of them. Sam was sitting in my office for days sketching, and we could not come up with a good cover for that. I think we did on that cover. We called everybody, right? And I said, what was the cover we finally went with? It was It's a Facebook cover. We find it, yeah, it's a Facebook. Yeah, we find whoever's the Facebook cover. And what the cover we were trying to come up with was an Angry Birds cover, which we finally did the following issue. We go back and looked at it again, and it's one that we liked.
So one time I came into the office and you were in the middle of one of these decisions and there were just covers all over the wall. If one of these would be a real worry for food.
That's a favorite of mine. But then John asked that treacherous question, like, which one do you like best?
And I looked around and I thought, I haven't received my check yet.
It's a trick question.
And then you ended up not going with that cover for X number of months.
Simple, yeah.
Yeah, you held it off, so that's the way answer.
Yeah, sometimes we'll switch cover at the last minute if something happens. Something goes positive and negative in the news or something. So it's a tough road. Good question though. You should come up and see me after.
How far from the really close?
We were trying to.
Justin Bieber cover, that was, they're $1.75. When we put Justin Bieber on the cover,
$1.75. If you want one of those tips, he's selling it on eBay.
Another question?
yeah,
Yes.
that guy that got out of the
Oh, I'm sorry.
The guy with that groove t-shirt.
I'm sorry, what was that?
That t-shirt is from the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, which is a very important one, and the hat is from Groove Comics.
You're shameless.
So my question is, how do you pick the victim for the celebrity prostitute betting night?
Getting the 5-minute warning, I have to talk that. That's a good question. It's people either we don't like or people who just have a lot of baggage attached to them that we can make jokes about. Sometimes we say, oh, we'd love to do somebody, but they're so bland that we can't come up with enough jokes. So the more notorious they are, the easier it is to write it, and we go for the easy whatever we can.
Over the years, what's been the most controversial cover that you've had?
Yeah, far and away the finger cover. Which we gave away for a while in the magazine. I still have more. We're going to give it away again soon. Back in the 70s, we did a cover, and it was just a hand with the finger extended. The original line was the #1 magazine in good taste. And the last thing that got changed to the #1 X magazine never made any sense, and it never saw the light of day in about 75% of the country. So, yeah, that was far and away the most controversial cover. Yes.
Has Mad ever parodied Comic-Con?
Yes, in fact, Sergio did.
Yes, we did.
Yes, Sergio did. And we also did Comic-Con Bingo.
I did a Spy vs. Spy Comic Con.
Spy vs. Spy Comic-Con. Yeah, we've heard this thing pretty good.
You don't like.
My answer to that is yes. Because actually, if I love something, I've got an emotional reaction to it, and I like making fun of things that I like. If I hate it, and I really like making fun of it. The stuff that I don't care about, that interests me not at all, that is hard to drum up emotion with. But
I think I have time for one more question, and then we're going to... Yes, sir.
When I wake up, I put a finger right the cap, and then when I have to draw it, I change the hat.
And then he sends the hat to me.
There's very little collaboration. Generally, it happens in the man offices with the editor.
I've often gotten the impression that people think that the writer calls up the artist and says, I'll write the script, send it to you, you draw it, and send it to the magazine, they'll put it in the issue. Where it really is very much a matter that the editorial staff, in most cases, does a lot of work on a
amazing is we're all that work, we're still not that good. One more question, they're holding up the sign, one more question. Yes, sir.
How is the day-to-day operations change with now doing the blog and also magazine as far as the blog that about right away?
It's hectic. It's very, very hectic. The blog is the first thing we do in the morning. Like I said, sometimes lightning a strike, we'll get it in 5 minutes. Other times, an hour and a half, 2 hours of still waiting to come up with an idea, and then that pushes everything back. Do they have over to Santa Reach? You are funny guy, all right. Yeah, I want to thank everyone for coming.